In this lesson, we're going to be talking about system requirements. So system requirements are really the hardware and the software that you should probably have in order to be successful going through these lessons. I do a lot of work with virtual machines, and some of that has to do with the fact that I primarily use Mac OS as my operating system. And really the reason for that is I kind of like having Unix underneath so that I can get to the command line and the terminal interface and be able to do those sorts of things anytime I want. But I also like having a useful graphical interface and having a wide variety of applications, both commercial as well as open source and freeware applications to be able to run. And for me, that's kind of Mac OS. So most tools that we're going to be talking about do run in Windows, and we'll be talking about some of the things inside of Windows. Linux is kind of a secondary application when we're talking about the tools that we'll be going through. Other operating systems are sometimes possible, but really, when you're looking at security tools and kind of the tools that we'll be looking at here, Windows is generally going to be primary and Linux is kind of going to be secondary, although sometimes that's flipped a little bit. But usually you're pretty safe in Windows, and if you've got a Linux virtual machine, then that's great. If you do end up using virtual machines, they do use a lot of memory, and disk space can be important, particularly if you're running virtual machines. If you have multiple virtual machines, as I do, for example, as I said, I'm running Mac OS and I've got a Windows and a Linux virtual machine. And sometimes I do have other virtual machines for different types of Windows or different types of Linux based on what I'm doing. So disk space is really important there. So hardware, you really want memory and disk space. You probably want the ability to do virtual machines. It saves you having a lot of hardware lying around. And if you really felt you needed to pick one operating system to start with, obviously the one that you're most comfortable with is going to be the best solution. But Windows is generally a pretty good choice because most of the tools run under Windows, if not all of the tools that we'll be talking about do run under Windows. And some of them, if not many of them, really their primary focus is to run under Windows.